Hello, welcome. I'm Nate Fosse, and I'm providing a brief R tutorial on exploring your data. At this point, you should have RStudio installed. You should also have Base R installed and the Mosaic package installed. We're going to explore a little bit of the R script. And as I told you in a previous R tutorial, you should actually have already installed the Mosaic package, and you should already have, I would recommend, particularly when you're starting out, on your desktop, all of your relevant syntax and data within the same working directory, or same path file, whatever you want to call it. In plain language, as I'll show you, I'm going to move some of these windows. You'll see that on my desktop, I have the icon for RStudio, and here's the icon for Base R. But I also have this icon, this little folder, where I have the problem set 1 syntax and the problem set 1 data set. And we had seen earlier how to upload the Titanic data set. So let's, and I also showed how to open the Titanic data set so that RStudio is the default here. So let's double click and open up RStudio. Actually, I already have RStudio open, but we'll close it out and I will save it. And we're going to open it just by double clicking. And you'll see RStudio open right here. And one thing to point out with using RStudio, especially if you're a beginner here, you'll see that as long as you save each session, then you will see, as from our previous R tutorial, we had already uploaded the Titanic data set. So in fact, I don't actually need to reload the data set. I have here commented out the data, the load command, because I don't really need it, because I've already saved this R session. You'll also see that because I've already installed the Mosaic package, I don't have to retell, you could say, or inform R that I have to install this package. But what I do indeed have to do every time I open a session of R, we call these sessions, I have to tell R that I want to use a particular package. In this case, you always want to open the library package. So you can sort of see, get a little more information. You'll see that I have quite a few packages installed here, but you'll see that I do not, in fact, have called the Mosaic package because it is not clicked. So there are two ways to call in a library. I could click here, and I could click here, or I could simply use the command. And I want to show you this simultaneously. Look here and here as I run this little syntax. I'm going to click the Run button, and you'll see that this is highlighted, and this is highlighted. So this right here tells you that among your packages that you've already installed, that you just attach these to your working directory. And you also see a few others. These are other packages that are part of the Mosaic package as well. I just want to show that to you because this is really moving forward. You don't have to really worry about installing packages as often as you would the first time around. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't be wary of that problem or that you might encounter an issue. So let's go to the first part of the syntax. I'm just going to answer this question. What are the observational units in the Titanic data set? Well, to answer this question, I'm going to use two really important commands here. But before I do that, I want to actually show you this environment pane right here in this lower left-hand corner. And I want to emphasize right here that this, in R language, a data set, is actually referred to as a data frame. It's just simple R jargon. You'll often hear me kind of vacillate between using the term data set and data frame. Get used to the word data frame because it's common in R language. It identifies you as an R user. And it also clarifies, I would say, the distinction between what is identified in R as we would say as a data set or a tabular data set, that is a spreadsheet, as opposed to other kinds of what we'd call objects in R, or basically bits of information that you manipulate. You can have vectors, you can have matrices, you can have all sorts of really interesting types of information. But what I want to emphasize here is simply when you hear me say data frame sometimes, and I'll often try to use the word data set because I think that's just simpler. I'm trying to emphasize the concepts. You might also hear me use the word, or others actually use the word data frame. So when we talk about exploring a data set, one of the best ways to do that, and I think one of the greatest advantages within RStudio is after you've opened the data, loaded the data frame or data set, and in fact you can see the term data frame here, and you can see the size of information, the amount of bytes rather. You want to type in the console, or you could just simply highlight in the syntax here, this view command. And I want to emphasize here that note that the view command itself relies on a capital V and then lowercase IEW. And then within parentheses, you type the name of the data set itself. So here we have a capital T for Titanic. And I want to show you first what happens if you don't type in capital letters. I'm going to press escape because you can see that RStudio is helping me. It's trying to tell me that, look, this is probably what you're referring to, but we're going to ignore that. I just press the escape key. I'm going to highlight this and run this. And you'll see that R really doesn't understand what you're doing. First of all, it doesn't understand the fact that view itself as a function, as a lowercase function, it does not exist. So R doesn't know what to do. This is a key point when you're typing in R script, that R is case sensitive. That is, whether or not something is capitalized or not is important in R. And the view command, unlike several others that we look at, is actually capitalized. So let's take a look at what happens when we use the view command, highlight it, and then run the script here. Well, then it says the data set or data frame is not identified. That's because in addition to functions, we also see that data sets, or the objects that we're trying to manipulate, also require, are identifiable by their capitalization. So let's use this view function. And here we see a new window open in the upper right-hand corner. And this is very useful, I think, especially for beginning users or people familiar with Excel. What you see here is actually a spreadsheet. And I'm going to open this window a little bit more so you can get a better view of it. So the first thing to point out is, if you really want to get a good idea of what the size of a data set is, you'll see that this has 6 variables or 6 columns and 1,045 observations or rows or passengers. Well, you see these columns here, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns here, but you see the detailed information. And here you can actually use the filter function. If you click that or unclick that, you can actually use the filter function to look at, say, only those who survived. Or you can look at the different classes of those people. Or you can explore continuous measures. We're going to look at that later. Fair is actually a continuous measure, same with age. But if we look at these categorical variables, we have name, we have class, and we have survived, and we have gender. These are all categories. And they're really important, and I think it's very useful to, if you want to do tabulations and explore using the view command. I think it's the best way, especially for people familiar with spreadsheets, to get familiar with their data sets. The other command that is relevant here when you start to explore data is simply the names command. And this is a lowercase command. And you'll see it within the R script available here. And you'll see just simply names. I can highlight this right here. And as you might guess, here you simply see a list of the names here. In our jargon, we could even call this we could combine these into a vector. But the relevant point is, you will typically see when you run syntax, when you run, when you tell R what to do, you type it and you save it here. Then what comes out will be in the lower left-hand corner. This is your console. And if you notice, you'll see that these correspond to the names that you see at the top of your spreadsheet here in the view command. So there you are here. And you can also, by the way, in addition to typing out particular values, notice that names is a categorical variable that that identifies each passenger. So we might have some redundancy, but let's just see if we have, for instance, Smith. It'll do a keyword search for the name Smith, and we actually see the rows here. And these are actually, this is not necessarily part of the data frame, but you'll actually see that this first row here tells us what observation that we have in our data set. So when we think about a data set, think about the structure. We have variables as columns. The rows are typically observations. And this is about the most basic data set you have. And the names in the view command are both central. So today, just to review, we we discussed what the data frame is. We explored the view command and explored that, and I emphasized the relevance of case. And then we use the names command that provides the column names of a data set. So I hope this has been helpful for you to just to get started exploring with your data. And you'll see that I think it's very intuitive starting out. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.